In our previous video, we talked about how to mix your beats properly in FL Studio. Today, we're going to take a look at how to master your beats. Let's dive in. So let's get into the video. Let's take a listen. All right, so that's what you're going to master. So of course, you're going to double click, make sure that you are at track 1. All right, send it to track 1. And one of the things I loaded here are these 3 plugins. Okay, let me just enable them one after the other so that we can take a listen. All right, so to make it even straightforward, to make the process very straightforward, so I'm going to load in this one, Easy Mix, on it. All right, and from the presets I used vocal focus, that's mastering. All right, and then I just adjust this tune up. Okay, so this has been loaded. You can see a compressor, you can see a lot of, you can see EQ and some other plugin has already been processed for you. You don't have to do much right there. All right, so of course we have a lot of them right here. You just pick any of this one that sounds pretty cool for your track. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to pick this one, vocal and focused. Okay, and adjust the knob. So let's take a listen now. You can see immediate result. Here's before. Here's after. And of course, you can still increase all the knobs right here. All right, you can see. Let's take a listen. All right, but I'm just going to leave it like this because I'm still going to add some other stuff to it. Okay, I'm just going to leave it pretty just like that because I'm still going to add some other plugins. All right, so like that, with just one click, we already have a pretty sound. Let's proceed. So the next thing I'm going to add now right here is this one, Ozone 10. All right, and this one I only had imager and maximizer. Yeah, you can just like your limiter. All right, so and here I just split it, the stereo wide. I make sure that it's not spreading all over the place. So I make sure that I center the low end, that's the bass, to the middle. All right, to the centered. You can see it. So let me mix this one. You can see that. Yes, before default mode, you can see spreading. So I just take it, pretty close, something like that, and that's it right there. And then of course I just touch this a little bit, not doing anything pretty crazy, not doing too much. But the most important thing that I want you to take note is this maximizer. For this one I'm using the modern. All right, and then I just increase the threshold a little bit. All right, so let's take a listen now. Okay, of course for the ceiling I set it to -0.2 and then the threshold to like that. If you want more volume, maybe if you want it to be too loud, you can still increase the threshold. You see that we are clipping already. So remember, just adjust the volume, but I'm just going to leave it somewhere here. Maybe -2 is okay. So here is before now, and here is after. And trust me, that's what I'm going to pretty do right there. Of course, even with this plugin, with this Ozone 10, you can master the entire beat using only this plugin, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so that's pretty 2 presets that I'm going to use right there. All right, so I'm going to close it. There you go. Then we move to the next one. This is called of course you should be used to this one. This is 1. All right, T-Rack 5 1, and then I'm only going to focus on the bass so that the bass can a bit punchy. All right, so I reset everything to 0 and then I wholly focused on the bass. So let's take a listen now. Before and after. Yes, before. Now, after. Before. Yes, after. You can increase it. Now we're not really doing too much. You can feel the bass. Make sure you are using a good headphone so that you can literally hear the difference. Okay, so here's before now. Yes, after. So pretty well. Now here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna. The next thing I'm gonna load in now is Pro L2. All right, that's a limiter. And what I'm gonna do right here is just to add more weight to the mixes right there to make sure that I bring the volume without clipping. So now to do that, I'm going to reduce the volume of this one like so, maybe minus 85 thereabouts. Let's take a listen now. I'm going to mute this one first. Yeah, so something like that. And then I'm going to come to the limiter. First off, I want to put it on safe mode. You can still play along with any of this one, but I love to leave it as safe mode. Okay, and then you want to make sure that this one to 8 times oversampling. Awesome. So now let's take a listen. Let's increase the gain. All right, so that we are not clipping. My CPU, it's pretty working so hard. You can see that. That's why we are, we are having that clipping. All right, it's my CPU. But let's see what we can do with this. All right, so I'm gonna leave it as 4 thereabouts. My CPU is clipping, but you get the concept. Yes, before. Yes, after. My CPU is working pretty hard. Let me just mute this one. Let me mute this one and awesome. So here's before now without the limiter. With the limiter. Awesome. I love it right there. So I'm going to increase it a little bit. You can see it's pretty loud. Yes, before. Without the limiter. With the limiter now you can see immediate results. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it pretty like that. All right, so you don't want to do too much. Okay, now let me take a listen before and after without the limiter. With the limiter. Now you can see the difference. All right, so along with this one, so I'm gonna mute everything now so that we can take a listen. This is before. And here is after. Don't mind the clipping. All right, that's my CPU. All right, you can see it because it's working pretty hard. Don't mind the clipping. Don't mind the clipping. It's my CPU. But then since we only use this plugin to control the bass, It's not really doing anything like that. It's just only the bass. All right, so I'm going to mute this one so that we can take a listen to the loudness. Then I can now enable the bass. Then we now export it and listen to before and after. Okay, so let's take a listen now. Yes, before. And here is after. Remember, you can still increase the volume if you're not satisfied. See that? Alright, now you can see that we are pretty loud. Okay, so I'm going to add the bass. This track one, I think this plugin is pretty it's pretty heavy, but now let's take a listen. Okay, I think here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to export it. So I'm going to export it now so that we can take a listen to before and after. All right, so let's do that. And this is how I will export it. And because this is the exporting now, so I'm going to leave, make sure that you're on full song, chord remainder, just like this, wave, and make sure you pick this one. Okay, and then you want to make sure that you disable this one, just leave this one, and you want to set this to the highest value as possible, just the way you see it right there. You can copy these settings. Okay, and then of course you can see the disk space. All right, so then let's start it. So this is going to take a little while, and then after that I'm going to play before and after, and so you can judge it. And there you go. Trust me, there are many ways I love to mix my beats, but for tutorial purpose, this is just one of many ways I mix my beats. And of course, if you apply this to your mixes, so you're going to have a tremendous result. I'm going to mute all this one. Okay, and then make sure that this one is not panned to anything. This one as well is not panned to anything. All right, so now let's take a listen to before and after. All right, so here's before. Let me just colorize this one so that everything sounds pretty awesome, so that we can see it even better. So here's before. So, and here is after. Yeah. That's how you can properly mix your beats in FL Studio to sound pretty dope. All right. Until the next one. Peace out.